Some of the most dangerous pride in your life may be happening. Your forehead is already on the ground. You pray, you make sujood, you say the words. Sometimes you even feel something, a softness, a crack in the chest, a brief relief, and then you stand up, finish the prayer, and somehow the same self is still there, the same irritation, the same private vanity, the same need to be understood, defended, admired, or emotionally protected. The same imaginary audience is still sitting inside your head. That is part of what makes this so painful. Not because you do not care. You do care. You are not mocking prayer. You are exhausted by a version of worship that does not seem to reach the part of you that keeps performing, comparing, defending, and narrating itself. Ibn Arabi says, "This discomfort is not failure. It is the most important thing that could be happening. Because what if sujood is not weak? What if sujood is exposing something you have never learned to see? What if the problem is not that your body is failing to bow low enough, but that the self remains upright inside the act?" In the Futuhat, Al-Makkiyah, Ibn Arabi treats worship as a place of unveiling. The servant does not merely express devotion there. He discovers what still competes with Allah inside the heart. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why sujood sometimes leaves your ego untouched, what Ibn Arabi found hidden inside that moment, and how to make your next prostration tell the truth. In this video, we are going to look at why you can feel sincere in prayer and still leave prayer unchanged. Then we will examine how the ego hides inside worship itself, especially in the moments that look most humble. Then Ibn Arabi will show us why sujood is not just lowering the body, but dismantling the illusion of self-importance. After that, we will uncover 4 specific ways the nafs hijacks prostitution. Through image, control, emotional self-protection, and spiritual possession. And finally, we will turn all of that into 3 concrete practices you can use tonight. So your next sujood is not performance, but truth. The modern Muslim is not only distracted, he is narratively overbuilt. He lives in a state of constant self-observation. How do I look? How do I sound? Am I progressing? Did that prayer feel real? Do people see sincerity in me? Do I still see sincerity in myself? That creates a form of worship haunted by self-reference. Even when you stand before Allah, part of you stays busy managing identity. You are praying, but you are also watching yourself pray. That is why this topic matters. Sujood is not just a ritual posture. It is a confrontation with the structure of selfhood. And this is where Ibn Arabi becomes so sharp. He is not a vague mystic speaking in emotional fog. He is one of the great metaphysicians of Islamic intellectual history. In the Futuhat, Al-Makkiyah, and across his wider writings, he repeatedly returns to one reality. The human being becomes true when he stops competing with his own servanthood. His language for that is ubudiyah. Servanthood, not religious styling, not spiritual branding. Truthful creatureliness before Allah. He also treats prayer as more than outward movement in the Futuhat. He describes Salah as an intimate conversation, and he insists that its inward state requires that none but the Lord be inwardly addressing the servant. That is already enough to shake you, because it means prayer is not judged only by what your limbs perform, but by what your inward audience contains. Modern psychology gives a useful bridge here, but only a bridge. Researchers connect self-referential processing to what is often called the default mode network, the brain systems involved in autobiographical, narrative, mind-wandering, and rumination. When that loop tightens, the self keeps narrating itself. Ibn Arabi described the spiritual danger of this centuries earlier in another language. The heart remains occupied by rival presences. Science describes what is happening. Ibn Arabi tells you what to do about it. Most Islamic content, says Sujood, makes you humble. This video goes deeper. Sujood does not automatically make you humble. Sujood reveals whether you are willing to become truthful. The posture is physical, the exposure is spiritual. But that is only the doorway. The first unveiling is even more uncomfortable. Think of a 27-year-old software engineer praying Isha after a long day. He still feels guilty when he misses Salahi. Still wants Allah. Tonight he is in the masjid. He goes into sujood and lengthens it a little. Not enough for anyone to notice. Dramatically, just enough. He tells himself, "Let me be more present. Let me not rush." But some hidden part of him knows people are nearby. Some hidden part of him enjoys being the kind of person who would lengthen sujood. He leaves prayer oddly pleased with himself. This is exactly where Ibn Arabi becomes surgical, in the Futuhat al-Makkiyah, when he speaks about prayer as intimate conversation. He is not describing a poetic mood. He is defining an inward exclusivity. The servant stands in prayer before Allah, and inwardly, none but Allah should be addressing him. That means, if people, reputation, performance, spiritual self, or even admiration of your own state enter the inward field, the act is no longer pure in its deepest sense. Do you hear how severe that is? It means the danger in prayer is not only open showing off. The danger is crowded inwardness. You are before Allah, but inwardly you are still holding court. That is why the Quran is terrifying here. Woe to those who pray, those who only show off. That is in Surah Al-Man, verses 4 to 6. The warning is not aimed at people who abandon prayer completely. It is aimed at people who pray while letting created witnesses occupy an act meant for Allah alone. And this is why the hidden vanity of sujood is so dangerous. The posture looks like it is disappearing, but disappearance can itself become an image. Picture a camera hidden inside a prayer rug. The rug does not create pride, it records what is still. Present when the body falls, it catches the extra second you held. Because somebody entered the row behind you, it catches the way your voice changes. When you know someone righteous is nearby, it catches the faint pleasure of being seen as someone who is trying. Most people think Riya means deliberate performance. That is too shallow. Ibn Arabi's framework lets you see the deeper disease. The nafs do not need open hypocrisy. It only needs to remain part of the meeting. It only needs a seat at the table. Modern psychology calls this impression management. Researchers have found that behavior shifts when a person senses social evaluation, even subtly, even internally. You do not need a crowd in front of you. An imagined audience is enough. Ibn Arabi described this same mechanism 800 years earlier as inward contamination of worship by rival presences. science describes it. Ibn Arabi tells you what to do about it. And what do you do about it? You purify the inward audience. You do not only ask, "Am I praying?" You ask, "Who is in the room with me while I pray? Who am I aware of besides Allah? The people who respect me, the people who disappointed me, the version of myself I want to become, the version I am trying to protect." Ask yourself honestly right now. When you make sujood, are you facing Allah, or are you dragging your imagined audience onto the prayer mat with you? This is why some prayers leave you with the same inner noise. The prayer was real outwardly. The Qibla was correct. The recitation was valid. But inwardly, you never became alone with Allah. Part of you was still curating the act. Part of you remained. A witness you could not dismiss. And that is the irony. The most hidden vanity often appears in the posture that looks most hidden. You do not fix this by becoming suspicious of every feeling. You fix it by becoming honest about divided attention. Huda. Presence means inward attendance before Allah, not polished motion, not spiritual aesthetics. Attendance. Your forehead can touch the ground while your heart still scans the room. Your forehead can be on the floor while your ego is still standing. But that is only the first layer now. Ibn Arabi goes further. Because even when no human audience is present, the ego still has another way to survive. Think of a 34-year-old, mother of 3. The house is finally quiet after midnight. She has spent the day serving everyone. She stands to pray alone in sujood instead of stillness. Her mind begins organizing. Reality, the school problem, the message she needs to send, the conversation with her husband, the better routine. She will start tomorrow, the version of herself she is trying to build. She tells herself she is using prayer productively. But look closely. Even in the moment of nearness, she remains the manager of reality. This is where Ibn Arabi's language of Ubudiyya cuts straight through modern spiritual habits. In the Futuhat al-Makkiyah and in the wider Hebarian framework, the servant's truth is not mastery. It is need, receptivity, poverty. Before Allah, he explicitly links the human being to earthy origin and lowliness. One citation preserved through later scholarship summarizes it powerfully. Dust and the earth are the root of man's configuration. And this verifies his servanthood and lowliness. That line does not humiliate the servant. It locates him accurately. And now connect that to the hadith in Sahih Muslim. The nearest a servant comes to his Lord is when he is prose, rating. Why? Not because prostration is emotionally dramatic, not because it makes you feel especially religious, but because it makes your need visible. It physically contradicts the fantasy of self-sufficiency. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Many of us do not use sujood to surrender our plans. We use sujood to baptize them. We come to Allah, but we still want to remain the quiet architect of every outcome. We kneel, but inwardly we are still steering. We whisper dua, but the heart remains clenched around preferred timelines, preferred solutions, preferred images of how life should unfold. Trying to control inside sujood is like trying to steer a car while lying face down on the road. The posture itself exposes the absurdity. Your body is confessing dependence while your inner life is rehearsing command. Modern psychology calls part of this cognitive control bias, especially when joined to intolerance of uncertainty. The anxious self keeps planning because planning feels safer than vulnerability. Researchers have found that uncertainty intensifies mental rehearsal and compulsive cognitive management. Ibn Arabi described the same spiritual mechanism in another register. The servant resists his own poverty and clings to false mastery. Science describes what is happening. Ibn Arabi tells you what to do about it. Now, be careful here. Sujood is not anti-action Islam. It's not teaching passivity. You still plan, you still act, you still tie your camel. But in Sujood, your first truth is not competence, it is dependent. Not because competence is false, but because competence is not lordship. Most people stop at the surface and say, prayer helps me organize my thoughts. Fine, but Ibn Arabi asks a harder question. Why? Are you so afraid to let prayer disorganize your illusion of control? Why must even nearness to Allah remain useful to your management system? Have you felt this? You go into sujood, and instead of surrender, you begin negotiating. If Allah does this, then I will finally calm down. If this situation changes, then I will trust more. If I can just map the future one more time, then maybe I can rest. That is not mere thought. That is a hidden claim to mastery. Trying to survive in the holiest moment, the servant becomes truthful when he stops pretending he holds reality together. And that is why sujood can feel frightening, because if you really enter it, you lose the illusion that you are carrying yourself. Hima, in its healthiest sense, is directed inner aspiration toward Allah, but the nafs can hijack even aspiration and turn it into self-project management. It turns devotion into strategy. No, Sujood is where strategy gets unmasked. Sujood begins where your management of reality is supposed to end. But even that is not the deepest danger, because the ego is clever enough to survive not only through image and control, but through tenderness itself. Think of a 21-year-old student. In Ramadan, he has had a hard year. He feels spiritually starved. One night in Taraweeh, he goes into sujood and breaks. Tears come. His chest opens. He leaves the masjid, feeling soft, sincere, and ashamed of how distant he had been from Allah. By the next morning, something subtle had changed. He is replaying the scene. He remembers how deeply he felt. He compares that moment to other people's worship. He begins building an identity around it. I am the kind of person who feels prayer. I go deep. I am not like those dry people. The tears were real, but now the ego has started harvesting them. This is the part most Islamic content never reaches. We are warned about arrogance in strength. We are warned about arrogance in knowledge. We are warned about arrogance in status. But we rarely talk about arrogance after tenderness. Ibn Arabi does. Not always in the exact modern language you hear today, but in substance, repeatedly in the Futuhat al-Makkiyah. When he speaks of the heart, sincerity, the realities of worship, and the dangers of mixed intention, he keeps returning to a hard truth. Spiritual states can become veils when the servant becomes fascinated with himself inside them. Later, interpreters of his thought, including James Morris in discussing a Kabarian spirituality, emphasize this hiddenness. The people of the heart leave no opening for the many forms of inner hypocrisy attached to visible spirituality. That matters because the nafs do not only want applause from others, it wants possession of experience. And here is the unfamiliar thought. Most people have never considered. Not every spiritual feeling belongs to you just because you experienced it. Some states are trusts, not trophies. Sit with that. A tear in sujood is not a medal. A soft in chest is not a brand. A powerful prayer is not property. Allah may have opened something for you in that moment, but the nafs immediately reaches for a label, a shelf, a biography. It wants to bottle the fragrance and write your name on the glass. That is why the image here, matter's picture perfume trapped in a sealed bottle, labeled me. The fragrance came from elsewhere, but the ego captures it, brands it, and turns grace into identity property. Modern psychology might describe this as identity fusion with internal states, mixed with self-enhancement through moral emotion. Researchers have found that emotionally charged experiences can quickly become part of how people inflate or stabilize a desired self-concept. Ibn Arabi described the spiritual danger long before the terminology existed. The state that should have carried you to Allah becomes a mirror in which you start admiring yourself. Science describes what is happening. Ibn Arabi tells you what to do about it. And what do? You refuse ownership. You let the state pass through you without turning it into a biography. You do not deny what happened. You simply stop kneeling before the memory of it. Have you ever left sujood softer with Allah and then harder toward everyone else? Have you ever cried in prayer and then become secretly proud of being someone who cries? Have you ever felt broken before Allah, but then used that brokenness to rank yourself above those who seem spiritually dry? This is why the nafs is so frightening. It will wear sackcloth if it helps. It stay on the throne. It will trade arrogance for refined humility. It will stop demanding admiration in worldly language and start demanding admiration in sacred language. It will become proud of tenderness, proud of repentance, proud of hiddenness, proud of being the one who understands subtle things. That is not servanthood. That is ego in religious clothing. The Quran says in Surah Al-Isra, verse 109, they fall upon their faces, weeping, and it increases them in humility. Notice the direction. True weeping does not make you more interesting to yourself. It makes you less occupied with yourself. The test of a spiritual state is not how intense it felt in the moment. The test is what it leaves behind when the moment is over. The ego will wear a sackcloth if it helps it stay on the throne. But now here is where the tension finally resolves. If false audiences, false control, and false ownership can all enter sujood, what does real sujood actually look like? Think of a 42-year-old businessman after a humiliating week. He lost money. He argued with family. He feels exposed, smaller than usual, and strangely emptied out. He goes to pray, but he does not have energy for spiritual theater. In sujood, he is too tired to perform, too embarrassed to narrate, too flat to manufacture a moving experience. For the first time in months, the prayer is plain. No drama, no self-analysis, no private speech about how spiritual he is becoming. Just need. and that plainness is closer to the root than many intense experiences ever were. In the Futuhat al-Makkiyah, Ibn Arabi keeps returning to the reality of servanthood, lowliness, and the heart as the site of truthful knowing. Another citation preserved through Akbarian scholarship puts it with stunning force. There is no state more noble than the state of prostration, since it is the state of attainment to the knowledge of the roots. Knowledge of the roots